Hello to anybody watching this. Today we're going to talk about music because I love talking about music. And I have found a lot of joy in revisiting some of the formative elements of my past that maybe I didn't realize at the time were formative elements um, when I was living through those things. I have a weird catalog of information ready to recall at any given moment that I can just go on one tangent after another, particularly when it comes to movies, or not movies, when it comes to music. We are going to talk about a song today. I'm going to tell you a lot about a song today that is on a movie soundtrack. Um, and that is going to be from the Space Jam soundtrack. So let me share my screen with you. We're gonna go there. We're gonna do this view. We're gonna put me down here. Put this up here. And yeah, I think that'll work. We're gonna share sound. We're gonna make sure it's in stereo. And here we go. Okay. So you should be seeing this. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, we're going to talk about the Space Jam soundtrack. There are a few good songs from the soundtrack. The first being the title track, which I didn't really love, but it is it's a good snapshot of sports arena vibes of the mid to late '90s. It is performed by the Quad City DJs, whose only other hit was "Come On, Ride It," the train. That was from the same year. And as a fun fact, they were also on Tootsie Roll from probably, I guess, a couple years earlier. Tootsie Roll was the 69 Boys spelled with a Z, and it was in 1990 quad, as they say in the song um, Tootsie Roll, which is, I think, on the album of the same name, 1990 quad. But that's the 69 Boys. And we're talking about Quad City DJs, who did the title track, Space Jam, and who did Come On Ride the Train. Um, the other song, the second song from the soundtrack that I'll briefly discuss, is called Buggin' by Bugs Bunny. I would not have expected Bugs Bunny to have a cool song on the album, and it's not one that I would throw onto any playlist, but in the context of this soundtrack, I thought that it played in the closing credits of the movie. Wikipedia says no, but it's kind of a banger for a cartoon song. It's kind of fun, a little catchy. It works as decent album filler. That's what it is. The third song I had forgotten about until I started to prepare to make this video, and that song is "The Winner" by Coolio. It is surprisingly wholesome for a Coolio song. It is very bright and upbeat compared to some of his other songs. A little more bouncy, but it's a really good song. I like it. The absolutely amazingly best song by far on this soundtrack, track five, Hit 'em High, the Monstars Anthem by Be Real, Busta Rhymes, Coolio, LL Cool J, and Method Man. Um, it's the lyrics were written for the movie. It's a collab. You have this all-star cast here. It's an all-star track, which is appropriate because they're all-stars. Um, that goes with the theme of the movie being all stars. So let's get into the movie. First of all, Space Jam is a 1996 live action slash animated sports comedy that centers around Michael Jordan teaming up with the Looney Tunes cast when aliens known as the Monstars steal the talent from the NBA stars in order to become better at basketball. Then they challenge the Looney Tunes to a basketball game with the fate of the world and their freedom hanging in the balance. The Tunes recruit Michael Jordan, whose talent wasn't stolen because he had retired from basketball by this point, and he had also tried and failed at baseball. So the rest of the movie is about teamwork and magic and creativity, etc. and so forth. You don't really need to know that uh, to get the rest of the context and stuff from this song. One of the crazy things about Space Jam is the weird cult following that it had and actually still has to this day. There is a subreddit for this movie that is very surprisingly active for a 30-something-year-old movie. This promotional website is a relic of that time period. They did change the website in like 2002. There was a Space Jam sequel, and so they updated the URL. So if you wanted to see what the original looked like, you would go to spacejam.com/1996. And this is what you saw in 1996. Looks like it was made in GeoCities. If anybody remembers GeoCities, it was like this, just super cheesy graphics. But every website looked like this. There were, I mean, what other types of websites were there? But like I had a GeoCities website that like I posted nothing on because I was 14. But yeah, so that's the website. You got the rundown of the movie. Now the song, the awesome song. I remember the first time I heard this song was at a church dance. I was 14 years old, so it was probably one of my first church dances. And at the time, when I first heard the introduction to the song, I thought, "Oh my gosh, it's on!" And I just thought, I'm gonna go out there on the dance floor and go crazy, and just have a blast. But yeah, I was 14. Like I said, probably my first youth dance. I didn't know any of the rappers in the song at this point. Um, I knew none of these people. I had not seen the movie. I had seen the trailer, so I was able to infer from the song lyrics that they're referencing the plot of the movie. So that's all the context you need to know to get into the song. So let's get into the song. Well, let's get into the video. The Monstars.
Well, remember the tiny aliens I told you about?
You heard of the Dream Team? Well, we're the Mean Team.
We're the Monstars.
Greeting, Earthlings. We have now taken over your radio.
Okay, so just a real quick note. That was Coolio, and if not for the credits and if not for this music video, I never would have known that was Coolio. This was before everybody was using the little voice box changer things that the T-Pain, well, T-Pain did a different thing, but the changing the voice thing, and that's going to go to a whole other theory that I have. So voices is going to be a big theme of this video and this discussion. But here, let's get to the first verse.
Going straight to the hole. You ain't got no game. I'm breaking you out the frame, coming through like a train. Looking to take over the whole world is my goal. With my unstoppable crew taking all control. You can't get none of this. We're running this. Well, take up, earth shaker, 3-point gun in this. Get out the lane, I'm coming through, and if you don't wanna move, I'm coming right through you.
Okay, so that's Be Real. Be Real is amazing. Be Real is from the group Cypress Hill. You would know, if you know Cypress Hill at all, you would know Insane in the Membrane. They did Dr. Green Thumb, they did Throw Your Set in the Air, and several more. They more recently, but not too recently, probably 10 years ago now, they did Rock Superstar and Rap Superstar. Two different versions of like basically almost the same song, which is a pretty cool thing. Yeah, good stuff. Good their commercial hits would be Insane in the Membrane or Rock Superstar. Um, I had heard of Cypress Hill at this point, but I didn't know Cypress Hill at this point. Definitely didn't know Be Real. He has a very unique voice, and we are, like I said, we're going to talk about voices a little bit later because interesting voices, especially unique voices like this, are going to be a thing. So let's get to the second verse.
It's like inch by inch and step by step. I'm closing in on your position and destruction is my mission. No, 8 is not enough, the whole squad better duck. It's like switch when I bust, now your whole crew is dust. Coming through my area, I'ma have to bury ya. The real scream team on your screen scene. It's like showdown in the ring. Go tell me who wanna tangle with the ghetto witch doctor, neighborhood superhero.
So that's Coolio. So Coolio had Gangsta's Paradise, obviously, a year or two before that on the Dangerous Minds soundtrack. Like I already said, he had on this soundtrack, he had The Winner. Um, I didn't know him. I knew Gangsta's Paradise. I didn't know the rest of his stuff. I didn't really recognize his voice. So obviously, for sure, didn't recognize him in this song. He was not a one-hit wonder. A lot of people seem to think that he was a one-hit wonder. He had several hits, and he was on several soundtracks. Like I said, he was on Dangerous Minds with Gangs of Paradise. He was on Space Jam with The Winner. He did 1, 2, 3, 4, Something New. He did Fantastic Voyage. He did It's All the Way Live for the Nutty Professor soundtrack. He did See You When You Get There on the Nothing to Lose soundtrack. And on a side note, I'm totally going to be making a video about See You When You Get There. That song is worth some good, thorough discussion. But clearly, he obviously had an agent who was obsessed with getting him on soundtracks. But he had a lot going on. He had a good range in subject matter and sound in his songs. And a lot of uplifting songs and a lot of other stuff too. Coolio died in 2022, so rest in peace. I believe it was rumored to be like a fentanyl overdose, an accidental fentanyl overdose. We're not going to get into all that. Coolio was great person and also worth discussing in more detail in another video. This particular verse, not super plot heavy, but his delivery is calm, menacing, ominous, a little bit spooky energy that I really like that kind of accentuates the rest of the performances in this song. Yeah, great verse by Coolio. And we're about to get into the first chorus and then the next verse.
On and on, we're unstoppable, we run the floor. You can't get none of this hardcore. In the game, we take you to war. You ain't seen nothing like this before. If I hit 'em high, hit 'em high, hit 'em high. How do you hit 'em low, hit 'em low, hit 'em low? If I hit 'em high, hit 'em high, hit 'em high. How do you hit 'em low, hit 'em low, hit 'em low?
Insane like a runaway train, I'm in your lane like it's only 3 seconds to score to win the game. Came to bring the ultimate pain up on the brain, untamed. You won't like it when I change into a type strange. Make low maniacal, monster in the game. And I got my eye on you, dead shot aim. As free throws keep coming down like rain. You feeling me, I'm feeling you, the Monstars gang. I'm telling you, pass me the rock, now I'm headed to the basket. Get up out my way is what you better do. My tactics is unsportsmanlike conduct, you better ask it. Don't get no better than this. You catch my drift, you get stripped by ball handlers, ruled by swag hammer. Danger, you dealing with official hoop bangers with hang time like a coat hanger. Jump with thunderous 360-degree tight dunks. What up, Dr. Monster Funk?
Okay, that was Method Man. And Method Man, you would know, if you know Method Man at all, you would know him from Wu-Tang Clan. Wu-Tang Clan is a super group of rappers and MCs out of the Staten Island area, who formed in like early 90s, I believe. I could totally be wrong on that. So yeah, Method Man um, the Wu-Tang Clan all were these all-stars, and part of their union, part of their contract when they got together as a group was that they had no restrictions and were in fact encouraged to go out and do their own projects under their own names. And they did, and they were all incredibly successful. Method Man, most of his stuff was done as a duo with Redman, so they were known as Red and Meth, or Red and Meth. I think it said it here somewhere, all the different names that they had for him. Usually, Method Man often gives a shout out to Redman, says, "What up, Doc?" Which is kind of funny because "What up, Doc?" Kind of like the Bugs Bunny thing. But anyway, probably just obviously coincidence. What Method Man is doing on this track is it's amazing. I mean, he's got a really amazing flow, and he's using, I don't know if it's a style or if it's just a tool, but this is what it's called.
Enjambment.
Enjambment, which is the continuation of a syntactic unit from one line or couplet of a poem to the next with no pause. So what does that mean? Well, okay, we'll pause that for a second. Actually, no, I'll just go with it. So from one line to the next, and I'll give you an example. He says, "Dead shot aim as free throws keep coming down like rain." You feeling me? I'm feeling you. So that is 2 lines. That is 2 bars, I guess, in his verse. But aim and rain are the rhymes in that, which is already cool because they're not at the end of the line like roses are red, violets are blue, something, something, and so are you. Aim and rain are just right there in the middle. Enjambment is free throws keep coming down like rain. That is one whole thought or syntactic unit, I guess, is what it's called. That it carries over. The bar ends with the word coming and continues the next bar down like rain. So it's actually pretty cool because dead shot aim rhymes with down like rain. But free throws keep coming down like rain is the whole expression, but it just is chunked into 2 pieces. One's at the end of one and one's at the beginning of the other. The better example of this is later on in the verse. The rhyme that he repeats, basket, tactics, ask it. Okay, so listen for this. Pass me the rock, now I'm headed to the basket. Get up out my way is what you better do. My tactics is unsportsmanlike conduct. You better ask it. Don't get no better than this. You catch my drift? So at the end, there's this and drift, which is pretty cool because rap is so cool how they do this. A lot of rappers do this, but headed to the basket. Okay, so that thought, headed to the basket, just ends, and that's fine. Get up out my way is what you better do. My tactics, now here's the beginning of one thought. My tactics is unsportsmanlike conduct, comma. You better ask it, don't get no better than this. But instead of just saying you better ask it, don't get no better than this, you better ask it, don't get no better than this. So basket, tactics, ask it. But there's twice in those 4 bars that he carries the rest of the thought onto the beginning of the next bar. My tactics is unsportsmanlike conduct, and you better ask it, don't get no better than this. Those hang over, and that is what enjambment is, and that's what he does here so very well. Yeah, that was Method Man. Let's hear LL Cool J.
Lightning strikes, the court lights get dim. Supreme competition is about to begin. Above the rim, finessing it moves is animated. Once I get the ball in, I can't be deflated. A rugged part, my Monstars is getting money. With clicks get the bugging, I'm snatching up their bunnies. Every step I take shakes the ground. I make you break your ankle, son, shake you down. This is my planet, I'm about business, the best that ever done it. Can I get a witness? A cumulus clouds bring darkness up above. You in it for the money or in it for the love, MJ? 23 ways to make a pay. Lounging in the mothership back around my way. A 28 light years old. If the refs get political, dribble like Bob Dole. Am I getting lyrical? Daddy, I think so. Monster dropping flavor fluid, so drink slow.
Okay, so that is LL Cool J. And I'll tell you a couple things about LL Cool J. He started his career in 1984. I think I'd heard him somewhere in like the late 80s. He was on some talk show. Somebody asked him what his name means, and he said, it stands for Ladies Love Cool James. And I was single-digit years old and laughed at his arrogance. Whatever. Didn't know what I didn't know. So I kind of forgot about him. I had heard later, I had heard Mama Said Knock You Out, and didn't know anything else for quite a while till I really, really got into music a lot more. And then, of course, I heard Going Back to Cali. I heard Rock the Bells. I heard Mama Said Knock You Out again. I knew Doing It. I knew Around the Way Girl. In 2008, I got his album Exit 13, kind of because I had caught up with him and was like, oh yeah, this guy does good stuff. So I got his album Exit 13, and it had like a few good songs on it that I liked. Never, I don't think, very successful commercially. There was a song called Time for War that was used in a lot of like UFC commercials. That was it. But he had a huge career, incredibly successful, and now he's an actor. As far as this verse goes, I love this verse because he starts with, I mean, it's silent. You hear that lightning crash, and then, he starts talking, and then he rhymes from dim to begin to above the rim, and he's swelling. You can actually hear like the tension or the volume, or maybe both, are getting bigger, and then when he says above the rim, the beat drops back in, and he just goes off. And again, more movie-related lyrics about the Monstars. He references Buggin', for Bugs Bunny. He references Michael Jordan's retirement. He has the line in there, if the refs get political, dribble like Bob Dole. And I'm not exactly sure what this means. I didn't know Bob Dole when I was 14. I know who he is now, but I do not have any recollection of what his career was like or his personality or anything. So I asked around. A couple people have suggested that basically what LL Cool J is saying here is if the refs are going to play dirty, they're going to call this game dirty, they're going to look the other way when he's fouled or whatever it is, he is good enough that he's going to win anyway. He's like, yeah, don't matter. They play dirty, like I can still do this. I can still do it even if the refs are not calling the game in my favor. So I believe that. If you know Bob Dole enough to have your own opinions about that, by all means, share them in the comments. But that's what I'm going to go with. So there's going to be one more chorus, and then one more verse. Let's get into that.
to see except the instant replay clip. Money spending, goaltending, stay bending, teams like crash cars. Who do they be? And be the monster.
Okay. Okay. This is the verse, and honestly, this was my first time hearing Busta Rhymes, and I didn't know that it was Busta Rhymes. I'll tell you what, because I'm talking about voices, I assumed that this was a voice actor. And if you hadn't heard Busta Rhymes before, yes, I got a sample here for you to show you.
Step by step and season, enjoy my boat cruise. I know you really wanna know who's coming through, leaving blood stains and residues. Sorry, homeboy, but your flow sound used. Got to pay your dues, baby. You know the rules.
So that's what Busta Rhymes actually sounds like that. And yeah, his energy, oh my goodness. So I had this theory in my mind that Busta Rhymes, I had this theory that every verse is done by a voice actor because Busta Rhymes especially and Be Real especially have those kind of gnarly voices, and I thought, these guys are voice acting as Monstars characters. And what kind of, I mean, there's a couple things that gives credence to this theory. Number one is the soundtrack. Bugs Bunny is he's got his own song on the soundtrack, and this is called the Monstars Anthem. So it seems like if Bugs Bunny is representing the Looney Tunes side of things, the Monstars in the Monstars Anthem, it seems like these guys that are rapping each of these verses represents one of the Monstars, plural, because they're a team, so all of them, or at least several of them, get to be on this track. That's what I was thinking. Now, the other thing that kind of, I'm not going to say it gives credence to it, but one thing in my head that kind of made it make more sense is his energy in this song. What you should know is the choruses previous to this, all the choruses were done by Be Real and Method Man. Now, that is true for the chorus before Busta Rhymes, but Busta Rhymes is also in the chorus before his verse. So, in my mind, Busta Rhymes represents this character, this Monstars character, who would be the alien equivalent to the Tasmanian Devil, for example. He's just so out of control energy, and he's the kind of person who's like he's the kind of character who's like so dangerous and wild and crazy that they bring him in the room in a cage because he's like the secret dangerous weapon. And so in my mind, again, you're listening to him be brought into the room in a cage because you don't hear him for the whole song, and then in the chorus before his verse you're like, oh, there's this extra guy over there and he is getting worked up. He's rah, 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 and then that same voice that you're hearing in the background now gets the mic. So that to me was like, yeah, like they brought him in and they unleashed him onto the microphone. And this verse is, obviously heavy on the basketball lyrics, also references the movie plot, take your talent from you, abandoning ship, like implying alien ship, which he rhymes with championship, and that's awesome. And I think what was really cool was the last word of his verse, other than that ad-lib, because he does ad-lib at the end, but the last prepared word of the verse, which is the last verse of the song, the last word is Monstars. So in my mind, like they've let everybody have a turn, and he is the closer. They brought him in this cage, and opened the cage and unleashed him to shred the room and just destroy it and Leave it all on the floor. There is nothing else to add to this. It is shut down. The all-star cast has performed. He got the final word. The song is over. In my mind, that's how it plays out, and it makes sense to me. I know it's not true now, but still, at the time, that's what I heard, and that's what I put together and makes sense. So, sports in the 90s had some energy that doesn't seem to exist today. And I'm not saying that like modern sports are low energy or anything. I'm not going to talk about modern anything. It's just it's different energy. And physical media has been on the decline for the past couple of decades at least. So there's not a lot of these great compilation albums that I used to, as a kid, used to just buy these things up. Jock Jams, MTV Party to Go. There's the one compilation series that they're absolutely kicking a dead horse. That's the Now That's What I Call Music collection, which is up to like 50 or more plus Christmas albums and other themed compilations under that same name. Like Now That's What I Call Dad Rock, and what it's disgusting. It's, oh my goodness. But anyway, I got Space Jam because I loved buying these compilations. I like to get a lot of hit music for my 14-year-old paycheck. And I got Space Jam as a kid because I was kind of into that energy, and I was hoping for a lot of good album like this, like these Jock Jams had great track listings. This was a little bit of a disappointment. Salt and Peppa was like okay, Upside Down. It was like all right. Spin Doctors were probably the best, other than Hit 'Em High and Space Jam and The Winner. And Buggin', I guess. So they'd probably be like the number 5 track. But the rest of these, Fly Like an Eagle? No, not really. I Believe I Can Fly. Commercial hit, but not that great. Found My Smile Again. For You I Will. Nah. Giving It All That I've Got. Don't care. Barry White and Chris Rock should not exist. What on earth? I Turn to You. Okay. All of My Days. Don't care. So this track, in fact, Spin Doctors featuring Biz Markie, That's the Way I Like It. That's the way I like it. I don't remember who did it originally, but it was on one of these one of these Jock Jams compilations. And when I bought Space Jam and heard it, I was like, hey, I've already got that song, but it's different. So that was weird. So this album was kind of a disappointment, but this song, amazing. The video, I didn't know the video existed until I decided to make this video, and it is very similar, as you can see from the Busta Rhymes video. A lot of rap videos at the time looked like that. Of course, Busta Rhymes had his own very unique style. Lots of those camera angles and the bright lights and the weird outfits Busta Rhymes was known for. I loved in the video that they had the real life rappers intertwined with the music cast. In fact, I think right around I looked 213 when he says, let's see, I think it's got to be Method Man. Yeah, Method Man. So Method Man says ball handlers like Swackhammer. Yeah. And who they show on the screen, Swackhammer. Where is it at? Where is it at? Be Real, Coolio, Method Man. You get stripped by ball handlers ruled by Swackhammer, and they show on the screen Swackhammer, which I didn't know until I watched the movie, but now that I know, it's kind of cool. So yeah, I enjoyed this music video. Love this song. I hadn't heard this song for about 20 to 25 years, but now that I have heard it again. It's on my phone. It's in several playlists. Um, I work out to it. I drive to and from work. I either get pumped up for my day or I unwind from my day listening to this song. Not every day, but I listen to it a lot, and I'm really happy that it exists. I don't expect anyone who watches this video is going to find it necessarily their cup of tea, but maybe some of you will like it, and maybe some of you will and have enjoyed listening to me ramble about one song for about half an hour. I hope it's been enjoyable for you, and I look forward to making my next one, which again will probably be the Coolio song, See You When You Get There. So look forward to that. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you later.